Backstories are an important part of a character, giving you a deeper knowledge of their past that helps you understand their motivation and actions, or where they got their scars from. Makes sense. Sometimes, however, all video game character backstories tell us is that video game backstories can be really weird. Here are 8 of our favourites. Sonic the Hedgehog players are probably too busy going fast, doing loops, and wagging their finger at people to think much about just why it is that a hedgehog is so fast, so blue, and so sassy. Sonic's had several origin stories over the years, but our favourite, and the one that does the best and most bizarre job of explaining the backstory of Sonic and his arch-nemesis, Dr Robotnik / Eggman, is the one from the Sonic the Comic story, The Origin of Sonic. In this story, Sonic starts out as a regular, brown, albeit super fast hedgehog, and Dr Ivo Robotnik is a friendly scientist named Ovi Kintobor, which, yes, is Robotnik spelled backwards. Dr. Kintobor had a plan to contain all the evil within the planet Mobius inside the Chaos Emeralds, which he could then destroy to free the world from evil. That, however, was apparently a less important project than making a hedgehog run on a treadmill.
Now, Princess, this way, please.
Now Sonic, I don't know if you've heard, has got to go fast, and so runs so fast on the treadmill that he breaks the sound barrier and the treadmill in that order. It also turns him blue, which in an earlier version of this story is due to something Dr. Kintobor calls the cobalt effect, which is both when shockwaves hit you when you break the sound barrier, and also the point I realised that Dr. Kintobor isn't actually a scientist and is making all this up. If you're interested, the actual effects of heightened cobalt exposure include vomiting and nausea, vision problems, heart problems, and thyroid damage, although I suppose that would have made for a less fun video game character. Later in the story, Kintobor fetches himself a snack of a single rotten egg, immediately trips over some cables, faceplants into his evil energy containment machine, and then fuses with the egg, somehow? Anyway, he's Dr. Robotnik now, as indicated by his name tag, which is apparently made of fridge poetry. Explains why he's so angry, I guess. I'd be annoyed too.
Face the mighty Bison.
Street Fighter II's final boss and shoulder pad fan M. Bison's past is shrouded in mystery. Unless you happen to play the obscure Street Fighter storytelling game RPG, which included some pretty odd biographies for its characters. They're not canon, but in the absence of a more filled-out backstory for M. Bison, we're going for this one, in which he derives his psycho power from a mysterious meteor that he found in a cave. So infatuated with the power that the meteor's radiation gave off, Bison had the rock carved into a statue of an eagle's head that he kept in his bedroom, so he could always be near it. Which, I mean, probably a bad idea. Then again, it does let you do stuff like this, so I see his point.
Ultimate Psycho Crusher!
Still, I suppose none of that is any weirder than him creating an army of brainwashed female assassins, or being in love with Cammy, or Cammy turning out to be his clone, but like a British lady clone. Okay, M. Bison is just weird, full stop.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. I'm all out of gum. Come get some.
By the time we get to Duke Nukem Forever, Duke Nukem has saved the planet from alien invasions several times over, to the point where he is the most respected and popular tough guy and military strategist in the world, despite possibly being the worst human being alive.
Time to stop pissing around and get this big guy back into action.
But back in his first adventure, 1991's Duke Nukem, things were very different. Duke is still taking on an alien menace in the form of the robot army of Dr. Proton, but he's doing it because he's annoyed that the aliens' invasion has interrupted his daytime TV. Deciding that what their alien invasion retaliation really needed was a disgruntled TV addict wearing a pink gilet, Duke was then hired by the CIA to take on the entire alien army, something, to be fair, he turned out to be quite good at. And all because he just wanted to watch daytime TV. Hey, maybe that's why Duke Nukem Forever was so delayed. Big backlog of Oprah to get through. If you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Tingle, he's the character from the Zelda games that you'd probably least want to sit next to on a long bus journey. When you first meet him in Majora's Mask, Tingle works as a map maker. You need maps, which is your first mistake because now you have to speak to Tingle. You're probably wondering why he's dressed like this, and why he talks like this, and why... just his whole deal. Well, according to the character's backstory, Tingle is a 35-year-old man who's obsessed with forest fairies. Seeking to emulate the forest fairies, Tingle sets out to dress like one, although he seems to have misinterpreted the dress code a little, opting for a form-fitting green onesie with red underwear worn on the outside. That's in Majora's Mask. In the non-canon spin-off, Tingle's freshly picked Rosy Rupee Land, Tingle starts out as a regular-looking guy, then gets his trademark Tingle outfit after getting electrocuted by an old guy in his underwear with a giant rupee for a head, which makes about as much sense as anything else in Tingle's life. Still, at least it's just Tingle. I don't think we'll be seeing anyone else dressing in this ridiculous... Link! You change out of that this instant.
I got Donkey Kong, and now I'll get you too, Junior.
I'm Donkey Kong Jr., and that's my papa. I'm trying to save him, and boy, do I need your help.
Everyone knows the backstory of the Mario Brothers, right? There was a whole rap about it.
It's the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's the game. Found the secret water zone while working on the drain. Lend the princess a hand in the mushroom land. Turn the action with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers.
Well, while that might be the case, in his very first appearance, Mario was a carpenter with a dangerous and illegal pet giant ape. According to Donkey Kong's story, the reason Donkey Kong breaks free and kidnaps Pauline is because he's being mistreated by his owner, Mario. I mean, Donkey Kong shouldn't be kidnapping people, but he's an animal, lashing out after being abused by his human owner. So really, Mario is the villain of the original Donkey Kong and fully deserves to have those barrels thrown at his head. This is further underlined by the fact that the sequel, Donkey Kong Jr., sees you take on the role of Donkey Kong's son, trying to rescue your dad from the cage that Mario has locked him in. Jeez, Mario, that thing is like an inch wider than Donkey Kong at best. What would Peter say? Oh, right, they already hate you for other reasons.
Now, take this sword and give your soul to me.
Voldo is one of the most unusual characters in the Soul Calibur series, a series that, need I remind you, features a ghost pirate, a demonic knight, and a literal vampire, so that's saying something.
Do not delude yourself, thou wretched fool.
From his unpredictable fighting style to his bondage-themed accessories to his many thongs, Voldo is a welcome change to the usual fighting game character template. But that whole deal isn't the sort of thing that happens overnight, so what happened to turn Voldo into the gyrating crab person we know him as today? Well, according to his backstory in the games, Voldo was once the right-hand man of a wealthy Italian weapons merchant called Verci. After losing much of his fortune to war looters, Verci had his sailors dig him a 50-metre deep treasury and tomb known as the Money Pit, then had Voldo kill those who'd worked on it to keep its location a secret. Voldo then sealed himself in the Money Pit with his master's corpse as the tomb's guardian, killing any would-be grave robbers and, presumably, hand-making his fabulous costumes from naturally occurring fur and fishnet deposits deep underground.
Have you no shame?
Ring out.
Still, you've got to admire his dedication. Why don't you get someone else in Voldo, then you can do shifts. Someone who isn't a giant lizard, Voldo. Come on, I shouldn't have to tell you this.
Mother, time to go.
If you're like us, finding out the backstory of Samus Aran from the Metroid series is probably pretty low on your list of things to do when playing a Metroid game. I mean, our list is pretty much just roll into a ball and shoot things. However, that means you're missing out on Samus's weird origin story in which she's raised by a race of hyper-intelligent space birds. When she was just 3 years old, Samus's home planet was attacked by space pirates led by series antagonist Ridley, who killed her parents along with everyone else except Samus. Her colony's distress signal was picked up by the Chozo, the aforementioned wise space chickens, who took Samus in as one of their own and infused her with space chicken DNA, because video game stories used to be super weird, you guys. It was the Chozo who also gave Samus her trademark power suit, which apparently was something that Chozo warriors would wear into battle. And if you're imagining that as anything other than squawking human-sized chickens flailing ineffectually at each other, then you're much better at taking sci-fi seriously than we are. Cubone is one of the most enduring and well-known Pokemon, having debuted in Red and Blue all the way back in 1996 and being a mainstay of the series since then. But it's also the Pokemon with arguably the most tragic backstory, that it's wearing the skull of its dead mother as a hat. While some games' Pokédex entries dance around this by talking about Cubone's sorrow over its mother's death and talking about the skull that it wears on its head, others come right out and say it, that an orphaned Cubone will use the skull of its dead mother as a sort of crash helmet to protect itself from danger. If that seems dark, we'd encourage you to look at the backstories for Beware, Kadabra, and Drifloon. We thought this was supposed to be a kids' game. Those were some of the weirdest backstories of famous video game characters we've ever seen, but maybe you know of something even weirder. If so, let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe for more videos like this from Outside Xbox. Thanks for watching!